You're watching Citgo Kentucky Derby Week coverage on ESPN.
All through the spring, we've kept you abreast of the ever-changing Derby picture. The abundance of news regarding the males has overshadowed one of the deepest three-year-old filly divisions in years. Today, their payoff comes in the 130th Kentucky Oaks. Nearly all the stars are present, including Madcap Escapade, who just wants to stay on a roll. She's never tasted defeat, although the margin of victory has diminished as the distances have increased.
Brilliant speed. Hope it'll last.
In today's Kentucky Oaks, she'll try to stretch her speed even farther. Toss in the likes of Grade 1 winner Ashado, Bob Baffert's romping winner Victory USA, and California sensation Silent Size, and you get a stellar lineup, each seeking the title of the fairest filly in the land. So we invite you to join the intimate gathering of 100,000 or so at Churchill Downs on the day before the Derby. It's the 130th Kentucky Oaks. Welcome, sports fans, Louisville, Kentucky. One day before the 130th running of the Kentucky Derby. It rained earlier. Track, though, in perfect condition. They know how to grade it out here at Churchill Downs, and we're getting set up for the Kentucky Oaks. A little construction going on, but by next spring, it'll be in tip-top shape. Those spires are never coming down. That's a historic landmark. That's where we are upstairs here amid the construction as they ready this place for perfection in 2005. There is Kentucky Derby news right off the top. This morning, after Bob Baffert had seen 2 wins to close Thursday's card, he finds out Wimbledon is hurt. Wimbledon is out of the Kentucky Derby. That means Baffert's out. That means Jerry Bailey's out, although there's more to discuss on that. St. Averill, another one who was favored in the Santa Anita Derby, out of this race, was kind of beat up coming here. A lot of folks think it didn't belong at all. Squeezed some other horses out. St. Averill will not run. 18 horses at this moment go forward on Saturday for the Kentucky Derby. Speaking of scratches, a big one, Half Bridled, the 2-year-old champion filly from last season, tied up this morning like a muscle cramp, anxiety attack, out of this race. We will go forward, though, with what appears to be a Breeders' Cup looking race. Strong field here for the Kentucky Oaks. $500,000 and change on the line. They will go 1 1/8 miles. 3-year-old fillies, and as mentioned, the track condition is fast. So Randy Moss, all the attention always goes to the Kentucky Derby, but this Oaks race has been around for 2 or 3 years.
times 3, times 4. It goes back to 75, to 1875.
Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, exactly. And that was when Churchill Downs was in its infancy, just getting started, and they were looking for a couple of signature races. So they looked to England, to the Epsom Derby and the English Oaks, which had already been around for 100 years. Everything in Europe's 100 years older than it is over here.
1,000.
So now, tomorrow, the 130th running of the Kentucky Derby. Today, the 130th running of the Kentucky Oaks. And the Oaks is just as important to the 3-year-old fillies as the Derby is to the Colts. But having said that, if this was the first running of the Kentucky Oaks with the field we've got today, it's still a fabulous race.
Oh, I'd bet on it if it were the 4th running. Well, let's find out why Half Bridled is fully out, because Janine Edwards follows the animals and has a little more perfection on her description of what happened. Well, obviously a little technical problem with Janine. We can fill in the blanks. Now, I tried to listen to what would happen with the horse. You described it to me as sort of like an anxiety attack, but I thought it was almost like a muscle cramp in a human. Is there a difference?
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that that it happens a lot to female racehorses because they tend to get a little more anxious. And actually, Janine had a chance to talk with Richard Mandela, the trainer of Half Bridled, earlier this morning. Let's let him explain it.
Half Bridled went to the track this morning early, and the rain and the umbrellas and the people scuttering around upset her a little bit, and came back to the barn and tied up a little bit. Not bad. She's in no discomfort now. She's over it, but tying up is not good. It's a cramping of the muscles, a nervous condition that runs in fillies occasionally, but it produces lactic acid buildup and that, and it's not fair to her, as great as she is, to go out there and try and run like that after having that happen. Disappointment, but I've grown up in the horse business, and I've done this for 30 years as a trainer, so we've had disappointments before. It's actually a relief that it's something minor, not serious, and and we'll point her to the Breeders' Cup this fall and hope we see him there.
Well, as we were talking about off camera the other day, this is a trainer who wouldn't risk a horse. That's why he brought her here, thought she was ready. Turns out she wasn't. Janine Edwards now, we got the mic working.
I think so. Well, Richard told me that tying up had not been a problem for her in the past, although, as you mentioned, it was a problem before the Ashland Stakes, something new. And he's sort of been battling little problems with this filly all winter long. He said she's gotten very emotional. She's gotten very sensitive. She's had some hormonal problems. So he thought he had gotten her past those things. And unfortunately, another episode this morning, very disappointing. So when I asked him what he will do with Half Bridled right now, she's going to go back to California. She will be turned out on a farm for 3 or 4 weeks, get a little R&R, get her mind back in order. And he said he has no short-term goal as of yet, but the long-term goal, he said, is the Breeders' Cup in the fall. Kenny?
Well, that's the story on who's not running, but 11 others are running, and this is a very, very strong field. A lot, Randy, like the Kentucky Derby, where you could pick any one of a number of these and be able to say, I got a pretty solid horse here.
Just as tough to handicap in its own way, and normally, whereas the scratch of Half Bridled would decimate a lot of races, not so this one. She was the third betting choice on the morning line, on the beginning odds. We've still got 5 Grade 1 winners in here. Ashado, the winner of the Fairgrounds Oaks. Madcap Escapade, the 3-to-1 favorite in the program line, coming off a win in the Ashland. And Silent Size, the Santa Anita Oaks winner, expected to test Madcap Escapade on the pace. Victory USA, AP Adventure, a great field now, 11 strong.
We talked about the Breeders' Cup look of this race. It's substantiated by how strong that race was there for Half Bridled and how many of them were chasing her into this race.
Sure. I mean, we have the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place finishers in here. On the rail there, you will see the horse trained by Bob Baffert, Victory USA. Ashado went by her, and out of the picture, 4th place, Hollywood Story.
Madcap Escapade can't be beat so far, but this is going shorter. When she's gone a little longer, they've been coming at her a bit.
This was the 7-furlong forward gal. She went 1 mile and a 16th wire to wire in the Ashland. Now she goes 1 mile and an 8th. She is incredibly fast. Jerry Bailey's just going to let her go as fast as she can for as far as she can. Try to harness the speed as much as he can, but she's very competitive on the front end.
Well, the wind is kicking up here as we're on the rooftop. Let's go back down to the paddock with Janine.
Well, Julio Canani joins me now. He's the trainer of Silent Size, and he's making his Oaks debut this afternoon, and he doesn't venture out of town unless he thinks he's got a pretty good shot. You told me this morning you wouldn't trade places with anyone. Tell me why.
Why? Because the track was sloppy. Now the track is getting, they call him muddy, and he's getting a little bit heavy, I think, or like a dead track, you know. I mean, I would like to see him better. I mean, a sloppy track, but it's still, I mean, my filly is doing very, very good.
But you said that you think your filly is as good as any in the race.
I think so.
What about Madcap Escapade?
I mean, she's a very, very good filly.
Now, your filly has only been beaten one time, last November, the Cal Cup, but that came with an excuse.
No, not an excuse. The filly, the one they beat me that day, is a good filly too, but my filly only got 1 start going 6 furlongs, and she went 1 mile and 16, and she ran a hell of a race.
All right, well, she looks awful good, so we'll wish you good luck today in the Oaks with Silent Size. And Cal-based fillies have won 6 of the last 10 Oaks. Kenny?
All right, thanks, Janine. By the way, there's a double here from the Oaks to the Derby tomorrow for those interested. Go to ESPN.com for all the information, live odds, updates, and play the Long John Silver's Pick 6. $500 to the winner and all the crunchy shrimp you can eat. Stay around. We got the Oaks coming. We got Derby news coming. We're here at Churchill Downs on the day of the 130th Oaks as we go back to back with major racing for 3-year-olds. Stay around. We're coming right back from Churchill.
This ESPN presentation of the Citgo Kentucky Oaks is brought to you by Citgo, fueling the greatest of American sports. By Visa, proud sponsor of the Visa Triple Crown. By Budweiser, enjoy a cold, fresh Budweiser because fresh beer tastes better. By Argent Mortgage, ask your mortgage broker about an Argent loan. By Bessemer Trust, enhancing private wealth for generations. And by Long John Silver's new Buffalo Chicken Planks.
All right, back here at Churchill Downs in advance of the 130th Kentucky Oaks. We might have given the track maintenance guys a little too much credit. Definitely it's drying out. Definitely they've been working out the track condition. We're verifying now muddy for the time being. You got programming all weekend long. ESPN2, stay up late or get up early, 1 a.m. Eastern. That's ESPN2 for the handicapping. Wake up and have some breakfast on ESPN2. Then Reese Davis back for Today at the Races. We got the Kentucky Derby special on ESPN. And after the race, after NBC, we will have the recap of the 130th running of the Kentucky Derby. From time to time, we like to look back in time, and it's that time right now. 20 years ago, you may remember this horse. You may also remember this horse. Janine Edwards certainly does.
Claiborne Farm, Paris, Kentucky, founded in 1910. But it wasn't until 1984 that the farm reached the winner's circle of the Kentucky Derby with a homebred colt named Swale. Claiborne trainer Woody Stevens never had any doubt as he remembered his instructions to jockey Lafitte Pincaille Jr.
I'd love to see him force the pace to the 5/16th and then let him run from there home. I think he's got a real good horse. I never had any idea of him getting it. I just thought he had to win.
They're nearing the finish. It's all Swale. He's there by 4 lengths. On the outside, Coates need chance second. At the wire, it's Swale winning the Derby.
All the 3-year-olds I had, and of course the Derby winner, Belmont winner, he was special.
After almost 3/4 of a century, Claiborne Farm had won the Roses.
We're back, and Hank Goldberg has joined in. He's the expert handicapper on board for the pick 4. Just note of interest. All right, top news of the morning. Wimbledon out, Baffert out, Bailey out, St. Averill out. Impact on the race?
Well, I thought the St. Averill scratching the way he did, I thought was a disgrace, frankly. That horse didn't look that great coming out of the Santa Anita Derby. Everybody basically knew that or suspected that he wasn't going to be able to run in this race, and he kept somebody out, you know. And as far as Wimbledon is concerned, outside of the fact that it takes Baffert and Bailey out of the race, he had a chance. I thought, you know, if he had run back to his Louisiana Derby form, but the way he runs, it won't affect the race. If it was one of the horses who figured to be on or close to the pace, then I think you have to take another look at the race and, you know, re-handicap a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly understandable that owner Stan Fulton of St. Averill would want to have a horse in the Kentucky Derby, but this is a horse that went into the Santa Anita Derby with sore feet, ran in the Santa Anita Derby with sore feet, came out with sore feet. It's been no secret whatsoever. And by pushing him to try to come to the Kentucky Derby, entering in the Derby, and now scratching, with the graded stakes earnings being what they were, Wimbledon, Eddington was excluded, Rock Hard Tim was excluded. So if they hadn't done that and just not entered him in the first place like they probably should have, Eddington winds up in the starting lineup.
And quickly, the difference is that Baffert thought his horse was right, and then something went wrong. I mean, you can't make the same criticism. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. And you know something, Randy, we were talking this morning about this. I've been asked this question all day long. Does this make a case for also eligibles? And of course, you explain why not.
Well, because they have advanced wagering here. They're actually betting today at Churchill Downs on the Kentucky Derby tomorrow, and of course, the scratches meant they would have had to completely change everything once betting had started in some instances.
Well, you've been talking all day. I just talked to Jerry Bailey's business manager. You've been talking to the jockey agent. He's trying to unseat another rider. That's pretty clear, correct?
I don't know if he's trying to unseat another rider. I think that the owners know Jerry's available. I don't think Jerry's going around trying to take this guy off, put me on. I think Jerry's also, they're also talking with our friends at NBC. We're trying to contact them and see if maybe they'd be interested in using Jerry on their telecast.
Well, you have to keep in mind that it's just a handshake deal with these. You know, they don't sign 8-year contracts to ride. It's he could quit, the owner could quit on him, the trainer could quit. So that's
what if they took you off the show and put Al Michaels on and told you today?
Actually, Reese Davis might have just stayed.
And horse racing commitment is a 4-letter word. You got to keep that in
Hank,
mind.
we'll look for your pick Saturday on SportsCenter and these shows. You can go to KentuckyDerby.com. You can pick 20 horses in a row. You can win $5 million, or you can fly to the sun. $25,000 for the person who picks next most. All right, we got the Oaks Field to be introduced real soon when we come back as we move forward to the 130th edition of the Kentucky Oaks. The jockeys somehow get a little not enough attention is what I meant to say. It's always about the trainer. It's always about the owners. The jockeys, the guys risking their lives out there, aren't mentioned often enough. But it's time we put a stop to that, and we do by looking back.
It's the King of Kings race. And then I've won Breeder Cups, and I've won the Belmont. The Derby was the ultimate, though. Unbridled hit the best race of his life. I mean, he just put it all together when it really counted. He was just one of them horses you don't find all the time, you know, and I was lucky enough to land him. When I really started feeling good was about the half-mile pole. I got in behind Andrew Cordero, and his horse was starting to back up a little bit, and when I got inside of him, I found a hole, and I made a hole with him, and when I got through, the next thing I know is he was just galloping up on the lead, and I knew that his last quarter of a mile, he's been awesome. I knew right there I was going to win the race. It was the question of don't make a bad step, stay in the middle of him, don't fall off of him. Here's the wire. You just got a little ways to go. Call announcing the race to Mrs. Genter, and her reaction, I mean, it was a soft spot in your heart there.
He's gonna win! He's gonna win! He's the winner! 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 You won the Kentucky Derby! Oh, Miss Genter, I love you! Oh.
The eyes of the world focus on a single dirt track. And in just 2 minutes, it all becomes history. Join ESPN for the traditional Run for the Roses. The first jewel in the fabled Triple Crown. From Churchill Downs, the 2004 Kentucky Derby. Sunday live on ESPN.
This presentation of the National Thoroughbred Racing Association continues on ESPN.
Welcome back to Churchill Downs. No doubt after the Oaks, you'll be watching Sports Center. John Anderson, Dana Jacobson, top of the hour. The Jason Williams verdict, a report on NFL minicamps, and a look at the Spurs-Lakers series. All right, Randy, the horses now are coming over to the paddock. 24 minutes to post as we set up. So let's meet them. Let's meet them one at a time. A shadow will be breaking from the one, and that starts our post parade for the Kentucky Oaks, number 130. John Velasquez, the jockey here, was chasing Madcap Escapade and coming to her.
That is a shadow winning the Fairgrounds Oaks, but in the Ashland, she was beaten just a half length by Madcap Escapade in a strong effort.
Hollywood Story, Victor Espinoza, another one you can't throw out. Very strong as a 2-year-old and hasn't been half bad as a 3.
Hollywood Story rallies from off of the pace.
Island Sand, you know, given the way things have gone this year, I'm throwing no one out, but Island Sand would be one that doesn't figure quite as much.
She was beaten a length and 3/4 in the Fantasy in her last start on the pace. She'll have to be off the pace here.
Half bridled out, of course. Here's House of Fortune, Shane Sellers, the jockey.
A sneaky long shot chance. She looked really good winning the Fantasy at Oaklawn Park in her last start.
Madcap Escapade, sort of the Smarty Jones of this group, right? Never lost.
Smarty Jones is 6 for 6. Madcap Escapade is 4 for 4 and has almost never been behind in a race.
Jerry Bailey up there. David Flores on Silent Size. Another one getting lots of respect. The Santa Anita Oaks winner.
Madcap Escapade has a lot of speed, but so does Silent Size, and it makes this an intriguing matchup.
Pat Day won't be disregarded on Victory USA, the 8.
In her last start, she won the Beaumont at Keeneland by 8 lengths, defeating Half Bridled.
AP Adventure, one that is worth looking at. Mike Smith, the jockey here, 8-1 morning line.
Great pedigree. Obviously a daughter of AP Indy, owned by Bob and Beverly Lewis, and she is perhaps the most threatening of the late runners.
Hank has Last Song on his pick 4. Edgar Prado's up.
Last Song, trained by Carl Navsker, we've already seen win a big race today. Lead story in the Louisville Breeders' Cup.
Corey Nakatani will pilot Class Above, 20-1 on the morning line.
Bob Baffert has Victory USA. Class Above, I guess, is his second best generally considered in this race. She's 34-1 right now.
Well, Stellar Jane is 36-1. Long shot on the board. Robbie Alvarado.
But trainer Dwayne Lucas has won the Kentucky Oaks 4 times, although the last one was back in 1990.
Well, Half Bridled, I don't mean to dwell on it, but would it certainly change the impact of how the betting went, because you're going to get a great value on her. She's out, though. 2-1 is a shadow.
And Shadow is of course, right now the favorite, which is maybe a little bit of a surprise, although there's still a long way to go in the betting. She was the second choice in the morning line, as you see there on the left. But maybe the fans are starting to look a little bit at what a Madcap Escapade Silent Size hookup at some point in the race might do. But I guarantee you, by the time we get to post time, Madcap Escapade will be a shorter price than 92.
All right. Well, if you see Hank Goldberg walking around with a logo on his pants, that's just because he's in the moment. A court ruling just yesterday gave some of the jockeys the right to wear corporate logos on their uniforms, something that was disputed by a lot of the racing officials. Janine Edwards is following the story.
And no logos on me, I can tell you that. Well, a total of 7 riders sued, and yesterday U.S. District Court Judge John Hayburn issued a temporary restraining order basically saying that the state of Kentucky banning riders from wearing logos on their racing pants was infringing on their First Amendment rights. Now, some of the riders stand to make some good money by wearing endorsements, advertising endorsements on their riding pants. So the riders are thrilled over this victory, but racehorse owners have a different perspective.
It's a big victory for the riders because it allows us to promote our organization, and that organization is the Jockeys Guild, which supports 58 permanently disabled riders.
I have some sympathy with the Jockeys Guild patches, but as far as putting advertising on their pants, that does not appeal to me.
Am I going to get paid for my endorsement? The answer is yes. The same way Jerry Bailey got paid for Wrangler, Johnny Velasquez, they wore it in the Florida Derby, they got paid for it. I don't think it hurt the game.
It seems to me that's going to benefit a handful of riders. There are going to be about 15 of them that have a shot to have those patches on their pants, advertising. The rest of them are not going to be wanted. So in summation, I can go with the Guild patches, don't like the advertising on their breeches.
So the question is, do the owners deserve a cut if a jockey gets paid to wear an advertisement while he's wearing the horse supplied by the owner? That's a question that will have to be answered at a later date. There is a hearing scheduled in 30 days. Kenny?
Well, Jerry Bailey, the writer of Madcap Escapade in this one, is one of those given the right to do so. Madcap Escapade much faster than she appears right there. But do remember, if you're placing wagers, her high buyer came 3 races ago and much shorter. We'll be right back.
You're watching Citgo Kentucky Derby Week coverage on ESPN.
And welcome back to Churchill Downs. 16 minutes from Post to the Oaks. That is from the Spirit of Goodyear. Whenever I ride on a blimp, it's always on the Spirit of Goodyear. It's the blimpiest blimp of them all.
My favorite racing shot, the shots from the blimp. I had a chance to ride on the blimp last year. I was offered the chance, but I got bumped by Janine.
Sort of the Jerry Bailey of blimp riders is
Yeah.
she. All right. Well, Kurt Hoover from out west has been following all the ponies out in the California tracks. He has some strong opinions on an unbeaten one today.
Thanks, Kenny. Maybe not good opinions, but I do have some opinions. One thing about this weekend, guys, tomorrow we get to see a truly great mare, Azeri, run. Well, Azeri and Madcap Escapade have a lot in common besides being very talented fillies. Somehow, some way, they both broke their maiden first time out at huge prices. A couple years ago at Santa Anita, Azeri got off at odds of 17-1 and won convincingly. Madcap Escapade was 16-1 in her debut back in January at Gulfstream Park. Owner Bruce Lunsford and trainer Frankie Brothers are hoping the two have something else in common, a whole lot of stakes wins. The Kentucky Oaks is Louisville's day, and local businessman and former gubernatorial candidate Bruce Lunsford proudly carries the flag for his city with the undefeated filly Madcap Escapade, the favorite in the fillies version of the Derby.
I'd love to come out here in the opening week of the races and pre-Derby, but to come out with your own horse in either the Oaks or the Derby is pretty special. I've owned horses for probably 20 years. Nothing that I had has been the caliber of this filly. This filly's special. She really does take your breath away a little bit. I mean, her first race, we knew she could run. This is a business that is made up of every now and then catching lightning in a bottle. No question.
Madcap Escapade's blinding speed stunned her connections as much as her competition. After she reeled off 4 consecutive wins, the famously understated trainer Frank Brothers declared Madcap Escapade the best filly he's ever had.
She's fast and she likes to run, and she has a very good mind, which is a little bit unusual in speed horses. She's pretty much, as they say, one-way Jose. She's speed, whether she's going short or long.
I'd have to say it's as impressive as probably any filly I've seen since maybe Landaluce back when she was a 2-year-old. She had that precocious speed, and ever since she's done everything right.
But can she carry her speed 1 1/8 miles in the Oaks, especially if another filly looks her in the eye late in the race? Madcap Escapade faced her only real challenge in the 1 1/16 Ashland Stakes at Keeneland.
And her head kind of turned like that, and she kind of came out of the bridle there, and then when Machado got up to her hip, she looked like she was going to be second in the race, and she picked it up the last little bit to hold on for the win. So the fact that she picked it back up, I thought was encouraging. I think she's tough enough. She's shown some grit, but she hasn't really been tested yet. She's got a great stride, and her physical build, she's got a lot of stretch to her, and I always felt she'd run further. And I gave her a good chance. You know, I'm not going to say she's a true mile and eighth or mile and a quarter horse. I don't quite know exactly her perfect distance.
For two men who race in Kentucky, having Madcap Escapade in the Oaks is an experience they want to savor.
My dad used to say it's kind of a poor man's dream. You know, I never dreamed I'd actually own a racehorse, much less win a race like Ashland. So when that happened, I had fraternity brothers, friends from school. We had about 70 people in the winner's circle. It was a special day. So I would hope that this would be equal to that, if not better, if we could get lucky enough to win.
Actually, this is my first Oaks. I'm thrilled to death to have this filly. I'd love to have a Derby horse, but it's not all bad having an Oaks horse, believe me.
Well, guys, Madcap Escapade makes for a very nice story, and she probably is the horse to beat, but I got to admit, on my way down from the perch up there, down in the winner's circle, I did stop by the Mutual windows, make a little wager on Silent Size. She looks great since she's gotten to Kentucky. She's trained fantastic. I think Silent Size is ready for the race of her life. I don't know if it's good enough, but I put my money down to find out. Kenny?
Oh, so you do the feature on Madcap, and then you totally disavow that and go back another horse? That's not right. I'm actually going to send a runner on Mad. I think there's a problem with the odds board. It says 4-1. That horse should not be 4-1 right now, should
No, I don't think she will be 4-1 by the time they run. Now, Shadow might be the post-time favorite, but Madcap Escapade is going to be a lower price. Now, in the Ashland Stakes, you saw Shadow was gaining on her, and you got to keep in mind that the finish line for a mile and the 16th races at Keeneland is at what's normally the 16th pole. So here at Churchill, it's got a long stretch anyway. She's got to run 390 feet further in the stretch than she did at Keeneland.
That's how it looks on paper. It doesn't always work out that way. Just because they were coming at her previously doesn't mean she still can't stay to the front. Janine's observing the horses down there in the paddock.
Yeah, and I particularly was keeping my eye on number 8, Victory USA, Bob Baffert's filly, who came to the paddock very, very late. The other fillies were already saddled when she finally came walking out of the tunnel. And I know that that was by design by Bob, because he had told me earlier that he's had a lot of problems with nerves with this filly. And she gets very rattled sometimes and starts sweating profusely in the paddock. And they have been schooling her quite a bit this week. And since they brought her in the stall there, you can see she's pretty relaxed and composed. She has not turned around since they brought her in. They've kept her facing the back, keep her from seeing the crowd, and so far so good for Victory USA. Kenny?
Well, just about everyone else is up and getting a little exercise around the paddock as they're being viewed by the spectators. Still waiting for the 8 to get it together. There's the crowd. They're gathering. It'll be even bigger tomorrow. We're coming up on the Oaks. Back here at Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs has dedicated part of the Oaks Day to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. It aids families of military personnel lost in duty. Track hosted the family members of 4 soldiers killed during Operation Iraqi Freedom. As part of the day at the races, the family members made the winner's circle presentation for the Edgewood Stakes run earlier today.
On a much